Welcome to the world of high-stakes testing, where tests have strings tied to them. I'm sure you're asking yourself, what is high-stakes testing? Well, high-stakes testing is when any test is used to make big decisions about students, educators, schools, and districts. These tests have strings tied to them, so when students perform well, everyone prospers, but if they do not, the schools lose money and students can get held back.
According to Wayne Oz peer-reviewed journal entry, high-stakes standardized testing in the United States itself began as a reconceptualization of an assessment tool from another country, France. Alfred Binet, a French psychologist, was the developer of the IQ test in 1904. He wanted to assess if young children were mildly developmentally disabled, which led to the Binet scale. By dividing the mental age by the chronological age, the idea of intelligence quotient, or IQ, was born. According to Gold, in 1996, this testing was to be used specifically on young children only, and it was conceived purely as a practical tool for placement not related to any idea of hereditary or innate intelligence. However, with the turn of the 20th century, U.S. cognitive psychologists recontextualized Binet's testing and measurement of IQ to fit specific race and class politics. This led to the distortion of the original use of the test by interjecting their own underlying presumptions. With the help of these psychologists and educational philanthropists, the U.S. laid the foundation to use standardized testing to justify the sorting and ranking of different people by gender, ethnicity, race, and class according to supposedly inborn, biologically innate intelligence. In 1917, a psychologist and Army colonel in charge of the mental testing of 175 million recruits during World War I, Yerkes partnered with a cognitive therapist and others to develop the Alpha and Beta Army test to sort incoming soldiers by determining their mental fitness. Yerkes formed obscure conclusions from this large pool of data. Such conclusions include that the intelligence of European immigrants could be judged according to the country they hail from. The darker peoples of Eastern and Southern Europe were less intelligent than their fairer-skinned Western and Northern European counterparts, and that African Americans were the least intelligent of all peoples, as mentioned in Giordano 2005. It's apparent to see such testing had a deep-seated bias built in.
So what is the purpose of high-stakes testing? The purpose of this is to hold schools accountable and make sure the students are learning what they should be. It is argued that if standardized tests and their data weren't reliable, then their use wouldn't be so widespread. As stated earlier, one of the main benefits of high-stakes testing is to hold schools accountable. Another benefit is the improvement of test-taking abilities as well as the ability to handle stress. Test-taking skills are a result of frequent practice tests and yearly examinations. Much of the data from these tests are available to parents and the public. This in turn allows for parents to see how their student's school is performing in comparison to others. This lets parents make informed decisions that will further their child's educational achievement. Developing the ability to handle stress is a lifelong lesson that can help students meet the expectations of school, their parents, and life in general. Standardized tests are reliable and objective measures of student achievement. Tests scored by individual schools and teachers who have an invested interest can have a bias towards favorable scores. Tests scored, specifically multiple choice tests, are scored by machines to avoid any bias. Here are the negatives of high-stakes testing. The first negative is that high-stakes tests are not objective. Yes, the bubbled-in tests are scored by machines, but those tests were still created by people. Written essays are graded by people. Even if these professionals that are making and grading the tests have a specific criteria to base it off of, mistakes can be made, biases are still present, and questions can be unclear. Students are human and they have good and bad days just like everyone else. How can one test on one day be accurate? Students go to school for a total of 180 days a year, but only one day can hold them back. That doesn't seem very fair.
High-stakes testing can be stressful for everyone involved and on many different fronts. Students, teachers, parents, and even graders feel the pressure. The pressure that each individual feels starts from the very top with the school districts and intensifies on the way down all the way to the students, who arguably feel the most pressure. Stress can cause a plethora of health-related issues, including, but not limited to, diabetes, accelerated aging, heart disease, asthma, obesity, headaches, depression and anxiety, and gastrointestinal problems.
We all know how important teacher pedagogies are, but many early career teacher pedagogies are influenced by the high-stakes testing that surrounds them. Learning should not simply be about memorization and repetition, but it should include the 21st century learning skills, which include critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and problem solving that they will need for the rest of their lives. Some research suggests that high-stakes tests often result in unintended consequences, such as narrow curriculum focus, a return to a teacher-centered instruction instead of student-centered, and a decrease in motivation. Whereas successful schooling systems, such as Finland, do not have such high-stake testing systems, but instead highly autonomous professional teachers who are encouraged to use intellectually demanding pedagogies.
Besides taking away from teacher pedagogy, high-stakes testing takes away from the quality of a student's education and the development of important life skills. Research shows that the U.S. has been surpassed by other countries in creative thinking skills, which leads to being able to solve complex issues as well as inventing new products and technology. Other than a lack of creative thinking in schools, students are also missing out on hours of engaging classroom lessons to take these arguably non-objective tests. Most testing is done in a student's junior year of high school, reaching up to 27 days of standardized testing.
There are many people who benefit from high-stakes tests. For example, the test-making industries that are making huge lump sums of money, and the people who are already in the high end of the social hierarchy, as they will reinforce this placement through high test scores. This system is flawed at best. With high-stakes testing, there will always be a winner and a loser. But who is losing? The already disadvantaged students who fail the test and remain at the bottom of hierarchies. The students who already come from low socioeconomic backgrounds and poor schools with little resources to give them a fair opportunity.
Did you know? Physicians, lawyers, real estate brokers, and pilots all take high stakes standardized tests to ensure they have the necessary knowledge for their professions?
On March 14, 2002, the Sacramento Bee reported that test-related jitters, especially among young students, are so common that the Stanford 9 exam comes with instructions on what to do with the test booklet in case a student vomits on it.
93% of studies have found student testing, including the use of large-scale and high-stakes standardized tests, to have a positive effect on student achievement, according to a peer-reviewed 100-year analysis of testing research completed in 2011 by test scholar Richard P. Phelps.